When you whiz along the embankment, the cranes, the traffic, the excitement of this modern city, it's very easy to not look up at this medieval church built beside the Thames. This is one of the most sacred and precious sites in London. The Romans built a cross in here in the 1st century, and then in the 11th century, St Edward the Confessor built Westminster Abbey, and his sister built on the opposite side of the river a church next door to the new palace of the Archbishops of Canterbury. And this church had two lives. It was the parish church of Lambeth, this little village by the river. It had a little port, it had farms, but it was also a kind of annex to Lambeth Palace itself. And over the centuries, a significant number of the Archbishop's household chose to worship here and also chose to be buried here. It continued as a church until the 1960s, when the bells which would ring when a royal sovereign came to visit the palace rang for the last time. The congregation moved to a new and more comfortable building, and the church was scheduled to be demolished. What happened is that a group of volunteers, garden historians, rescued the church to be a shrine to John Tredescant. Now, John Tredescant lived in the 17th century. He was the first great gardener in British history. He was gardener to King Charles I, and so he was buried here as a local resident in the 17th century, and his burial inspired the making of the world's first museum of garden history. What we're doing now, we want to tell the story of British gardens in 1600, 5 new galleries, over 1,000 objects on display for the first time, and a whole new courtyard for education, and a garden which everyone can just come and be in. The challenge of the project is to insert these modern museum spaces inside this ancient precious structure. No piling, no deep foundations. We didn't want to go down, and we also knew there was no crypt because it's so close to the Thames that it would have flooded. And we also knew that in the 1850s, when the Victorians remodelled the church, they pretty much cleared hundreds, if not thousands, of coffins out to make this new building with underfloor heated. So every archaeologist in London has looked at this building, but nobody told us to expect to find anything. Things were going incredibly smoothly until Carl rang up one day and said, "I think you better come here quickly."
Yeah, it was a very interesting day actually. We were exposing the ground as part of the job, and we were lifting the slabs in the ark area, and we uncovered an entry to what looked like a tomb, and we got a camera on the end of a stick and discovered numerous coffins, and one of them had a gold crown on top of it.
I came here thinking, oh, this sounds like bad news, problem, and wow, and it's the crown, it's the mitre of an archbishop gleaming there in the dark. We know there are 5 archbishops buried here. The first was Archbishop Bancroft, who chaired the committee that wrote the King James Bible. What we don't know, we still don't know, is who else is down there.
This is really astonishing. I'm a historian and a horticulturalist, and this is one of the most incredible things I've seen. We know that this is a shrine to gardening for the Tredescants, but to know that possibly the person that commissioned the King James Bible is buried here is the most incredible discovery and greatly adds to the texture of this project.